Boys, we got to do a mini Dear Hazy B. We got to get Billy Belichick on the show and tell him that he's got to get rid of his girlfriend. I know it would be tough, man. And I don't know if the rumblings are true or false about her being banned from the North Carolina football facility. He's got to move on. Hazy B?
Yeah, this feels like a Dear Hazy B, where it's...
Let's just start the Hazy B. It's brought to you by Boston Pizza.
Yes.
Dear Hazy B, I know a guy who's 75.
My grandpa, that would be someone who would write it in. My grandfather is dating someone...
Who's 24.
Yes.
My grandpa.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's the head football coach at a big-time university in North Carolina. His girlfriend is 24 and wearing weird gear to practice and running the show. And we have to tell him it's got to stop because it's ruining his legacy.
I have a theory on this because it was Pablo Torre that reported this. And I don't think of Pablo Torre as a guy that breaks news. This is more of a Schefter type report. So, it's going viral and everyone's buying into it because it's so believable. That's what's scary here, right? My sneaking suspicion is Bill Belichick went to the athletic director and said, "You have to do me a favor. I can't do it. I can't do it." You can tell this guy's he doesn't have what it takes.
I know, but isn't that when you have to go to the athletic director and say, "Can you do me a favor and send me an email banning my girlfriend?" Isn't that time to get rid of the girlfriend?
Well,
100%.
I mean, listen, when does Bill Belichick take responsibility, though? Here's my Dear Hazy B. How about you grow up and if you're going to be in a relationship, place some boundaries. Well, like everyone's like, "Oh,
who else
poor
is
Bill
significant
Belichick."
Other, girlfriend or wife, wheels around? You imagine our wives wheeling around here telling people what to do?
Yes.
We'd all get fired immediately.
Of course, but that's the point is, like, everyone's blaming this woman. How about Bill Belichick?
I agree.
Grow up and say, "Excuse me, I can't have you, I work here, you work wherever you work. We have our personal life together, but I'm more than capable of running interviews and football operations without your help." But Bill Belichick is the one that's done it. He's the one that's he can't handle the heat right now. Well, it's crazy.
It is crazy. Bill Belichick would fire Bill Belichick if he ever saw that type of
immediately.
He wouldn't allow nonsense. 1 second of it.
That's what I'm saying.
So disturbed by Bill Belichick.
Exactly. Bill Belichick, the way he did business. This is the most ironic part. He wanted no relationships, no nothing. When it came to the New England Patriots, like Tom Brady wanted that, voodoo guy
Alex
on
Guerrero
the sidelines.
Nope, banned from the facility.
Because all you knew from Bill Belichick is this guy's a coach. You knew nothing about his personal life. Gronk, we had him on the show. He's like, yeah, he's a good guy if you want to have a beer with him. But at the stadium, the guy's a lunatic. All of a sudden, somewhere where he crossed over the threshold of being 75 or not given a damn anymore, his girlfriend's on the field in shorts and some sort of weird...
It's his problem and his fault.
It's 100% his fault. And if that's where, you said you got a buddy that you go for breakfast with, the guy who's a veteran guy, 70-something or whatever. He's got to pull him aside, one of his buddies, and go, "What are you doing here?" Yeah. Like you're literally, get your head out of your ass. That's not the way. That's not the Bill Belichick I know. He's acting this way. He's acting like a high school guy.
By the way, Noodles, my buddies that I go for lunch with, two of my best friends, they're 80 years old.
I was going to say 80. I didn't want to say 80 just to...
What? Yeah, Blue from old school. I love it.
It is Blue. My boy Blue.
Dude, they're the best guys.
Yeah.
I know.
Eddie and Mulls, they're the best.
So Eddie and Mulls need to pull him aside and say, "What the hell are you doing?" Because that's not the Bill Belichick we know. The Bill Belichick we know would not tolerate any type of that nonsense around his football program, regardless of where it is.
Yeah, and again, I don't there's so much focus on the age discrepancy naturally, and as a result, I feel like people are, there's this attack. It's because, I take issue with all this because she's younger. I'd have the same reaction if she was Bill's age. In terms of the fact that you're supposed to be running a program, and Bill Belichick, again, I don't blame his girlfriend at all, My assumption would be his girlfriend's like, well, I could help you do this. And he's like, yeah, sure. Okay, you run this, you run that. She's like, all right, fine. You want me to run it? Sure. You want me to be here for the interview? I'll do it and stop it. And it's on him to be like, listen, I have an obligation. He's getting paid a fortune by the state.
Dude,
to step in and do something here.
Like we just mentioned, Bill Belichick would fire Bill Belichick. He is deathly afraid of going speed dating at an old age home when this is over, and he really enjoys what he's getting into.
Yeah, listen, I think...
Like Hayes, like Noodles. Can you imagine Hayes' face if we were sitting in here, and he said, "Oh, dog, what'd you think of the Leafs power play last night?" And my wife was sitting in the back, and she said, "Don't answer that." Like, this guy's head would pop off.
It would. Yeah. It was strange. It was strange. It is strange.
Where'd you guys meet? Don't answer that. Like,
we'll see what happens here. We'll see. Listen, Bill Belichick's got a lot of power, man, and that's the thing. It's college and it's North Carolina. It's a big program, but it's a basketball program, and they're paying him a lot to get wins. And if he doesn't win, that's when things are going to get crazy. But in college sports, they'll accept a lot if you win. If he wins, who knows what's coming.
Yeah.
All right. We got Game 3 tonight, Leafs-Panthers. And we get the World Championship right around the corner with an absolutely stacked Canadian team. We head to Sweden now, and here's Mike Johnston joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. We acclimated over there? How are we feeling?
Pretty good, Hayes. I'm not going to lie to you. I slept well on the flight over. Slept pretty well first couple nights. It's like, 11 o'clock here? I will go to sleep in a bit, and I think I'll sleep through the night. So, yeah, all good. Kind of on normal schedule now.
But what are you talking about? It's Friday night in Sweden.
I know, and it pains me to say this, and I'm not being a hero here, but I have to do 3 games tomorrow.
Dude, rock it old school, man. Go right to put a suit on and go right to the rink.
It's not my energy that's the issue or my morality. It's my voice. So I can't go to the bar at night and then go and do 7 hours of games 2 days. Like I'll lose my voice by Monday. So as much as I would like to, and I'm right in the thick of it. I am 2 blocks from Old Town. I am less than a kilometer from Cafe Oprah, allegedly. And I cannot go out until I have a day off, which is like 10 days away.
And the other thing, too, Johnny, calling an NHL game, we all know who the players are, right? You're very recognizable. Yeah. Like, you're obviously going to know the Canadian players, but a guy on the other team who you've never seen before, and you've had to do so much research on him because the guy had never played in the NHL and he's played in a second division league somewhere. Like, that's the biggest challenge for you, isn't it? Is not only the amount of time you've got to call the games with, but basically the research you have to do on players that, are not household names.
Yeah, Canada's playing tomorrow at noon against Slovenia.
Yes,
now, if Andrei Kopitar was playing, okay. Other than that, I don't know if I've heard of any player on their team. So I'm hoping Canada has the puck a lot. But, yeah, you can't sort of take it out of memory. So, anyways, so I am here in the room doing some work for tomorrow, talking to you guys, and then hopefully I won't wake up at all. Like, in Game 2, I woke up middle of the night and watched the last 10 minutes live of the Leafs game, which was like from 2:45 to 3 in the morning or something, and kind of watched how that one ended. Hopefully that won't happen. Then I'll just watch in the morning, but we'll see.
Well, then you would have seen pretty good action down the stretch, man. It was an unbelievable hockey game, Game 2, and the Leafs are back in familiar territory, I guess, when you consider where they were last series. They were up 2-0 against Ottawa, heading on the road. We know how that finished. Simone Benoit in overtime. This sets up to be a more difficult test, although Ottawa I thought, played pretty well in Game 3. Like, they were prepared, but the Leafs were prepared as well. And, I'm curious where you stand on the Florida Panthers. Like, to you, in your opinion, is it just a lock that they have a great game tonight? Or have they shown you in the last 2 games that maybe they're leaking oil a little bit, or the Leafs are pushing them around in certain areas? What do you expect from the Panthers tonight?
I would be very surprised if Florida didn't play well. Doesn't mean they're going to win for sure, but I think we've seen 2 years in a row to the final, the core group of players that have been there, and when they've had to rise to the occasion, they've been in some tight spots in the last couple of years. They have generally risen to the occasion. The players and Noodles, maybe specifically the goaltender. And so I would expect them all to be good. Now, so Toronto has to be really good. I think Toronto has done a better job in the playoffs 2 games than during the regular season games of taking advantage of an uber-aggressive forecheck. We talked a lot about it, like getting stuff through the neutral zone, getting stuff off the rush. That never happened or rarely happened during the regular season. It's happened several times and they've converted on them. If they could, because those opportunities will still be there. The forecheck will still be heavy. It'll be aggressive. They'll be up the ice. And if they can make plays on turnovers or make plays quickly, they'll get those chances. I think that is something maybe the Leafs have unlocked in the first couple games to their advantage. And those result in dangerous chances more so than scrumming around on a cycle. So that's maybe something Hayes they can latch on to from the first couple of games. But I would expect this to be a very tough game, and if they can get it, well, then they're going to the conference final essentially. And it's never over, but it's only happened 4 times. So this is a massive game, and the mentality of the Leafs to not think, well, we've done a good job getting up to nothing, and if you take a breath. And if you ease off at all, sort of mentally or emotionally, Florida's right back in the series after tonight. Tonight's a really big game for Toronto to play well in.
Johnny, if Craig Berube had the option, if the hockey gods sat in his office and said you can have one or the other tonight to be the best player on the ice, Auston Matthews or Joseph Woll, which one are you taking?
I'm always taking the goalie, because even if Austin's the best player, he might get 1-1. But if Joseph Woll's the best player, Florida gets none or 1. And that's going to result in a win. So I'll always take the goaltender for sure. But I do think, Austin has their line, and Paul Maurice was asked about it, how he feels that, Barkov and Matthews have gone against each other. And I thought in game 2, Barkov, he got the better of it. I know Mitch scored the game winner, and results matter. That's all that matters. But I thought Barkov carried the play largely against Auston Matthews' line in game 2. So we'll see if they can flip that around. But I'm always taking the goaltender, just because if the goalie has a great game, you basically win that game. That's not always a guarantee with a positional player.
Johnny, what do you make of some of the depth players chipping in, and specifically a guy like Max Pacioretty, who started as a healthy, comes in as the third line. Now he's cemented himself on the second line there and looking pretty good.
It's so pivotal. It's one of the other elements that sort of hasn't happened in years past. Max, I give him so much credit for being able, but maybe more importantly, willing to reinvent himself late in his career. He's had a really good career as an offensive player who scores goals, who wants the puck. He plays physical to get it, but he doesn't play physical to play physical. That's not the way he's played in his career. And yet, here he is, mid-30s, recognizing that if I want to be a contributing part of this team, I got to be willing to just put my head down, use my big frame, skate and hit and finish, and then the offense may or may not come, but I can't worry about that. And that's not as easy and not as obvious as people might think it would be. And so he's been a big part of it. And he's a big guy. And Florida is a team that sometimes requires big guys to push them back, because they're going to push you, and occasionally it's nice for you to run them over. And he has that. We've talked about him throughout the year. Like from the first game he played this season, way back when he started before he got injured, he was hammering guys, like hitting guys at a level. I'm like, I don't remember him ever doing this. So it's something that he obviously was intent on doing, and he's followed through the entire season. It's been important. And that top six forward, it has been a revolving door. They've tried everyone there. There was always the hope when they signed Max Pacioretty that it could be him in this exact moment, like almost in this exact series, where he could be ideally suited to play this role. And so far, in the first couple of games, he's played a massive role in them being up 2-0.
We have Mike Johnston, our TSN Hockey analyst, ahead of Game 3 tonight. Matthew Tkachuk, I don't know what you're seeing out of his game, but we were talking about this last hour. Bob has not been himself, and if he's not going to be himself, then that changes everything. For me, putting the goaltending aside, if Matthew Tkachuk is not capable of inserting himself into the series and being an impact, I'm not sure Florida can get up off the mat either. I don't know if you see it that way or not, but do you have belief that Tkachuk will be better and more impactful once they get back to Florida.
Yeah, I'm with you, Hayes. Even for Matthew Tkachuk, it's got to be tricky to miss 2.5 months and then just walk into the playoffs and expect to be really good, as good as he is. And it feels like he's still getting up to speed. Now, he's never been a game that's based on fluid, fast skating. It's sort of a much grindier game in tight. But, yeah, he's got to have an impact. He's got to have an impact making plays, producing points, and being around the puck enough that he can bug the opposition, that he can get in that agitating role that he is maybe the best in the world at. So, yeah, I would think that he's getting healthier as it goes, but he doesn't look like he's all the way there. The coaching staff for Florida wouldn't acknowledge that. They said they like his game. He hasn't had the impact that you'd expect him to. If he's physically capable, again, you'd expect him to be better in this game. I just don't know after that break if he's actually physically capable.
That is the question, man. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is. When you look at what
it's not
they,
a will thing. It's just if he could, he would. You just wonder if he can.
Well, and again, they got through Tampa with he contributed. Like he scored goals. First game back, he had a couple of goals, but wasn't averaging a ton of ice time. And a couple of years ago, when they went to their first Cup final, remember he was out in the Cup. He just couldn't play.
Broken sternum.
Yeah, and they were done. And again, Bob kind of was leaking oil then too, but they just ran out of gas. And again, if you're the Leafs, it always seems like we talk about, well, if you get a chance to hit Marner, you do it. If you get you should be doing the same thing with Tkachuk.
No kidding.
Like just bury him every chance you can. You always assume he's the guy that wants to drag you into a scrum. You be the one to do it. I'm not saying Marner and Matthews, but if you're Jake McKay, bury him when you can. If you're Brandon Carlo, if you're any of these guys, man, try to drag him into a fight, because if he's not at 100%, man, you never know what you're going to get. He may not be able to do it. We'll see. In terms of that thinking, I'm curious what we are expecting out of Josh Morrissey tonight, who is going to return for the Jets. And St. Louis just was killing him every chance they got. I got to believe Peter DeBoer is going to tell his team, if you get a chance to bury this guy, just lean on him. And I don't know what we're going to get. Like, where do you stand on that, Johnny? It's great to have him back. We presume he's a game-time decision. We think he'll play tonight. But if he's at 70, 80%, what is that really going to do for Morrissey, and what do you think it does for the Jets tonight?
It's interesting because it looks like his injury is an upper body thing, right? So you think he'd be able to defend because, if you can skate okay, you can gap up, you can kind of get in the way on the rushes and get body position. But when I see that shoulder slump down after a hit, and he kind of tried to hit somebody else, and it just looked like it was dragging on him, you wonder what the strength will be like when he shoots the puck, because that's one of the real assets he has. And that Dallas, as you mentioned, is going to run him. Even guys who don't hit, you're like, okay, he's wounded. It's like the antelope that's got the bad limp in the Serengeti. Like, he's gonna get chased down. Everyone's gonna be drawn to him. And so, how many more hits can he take? Will that allow him to play at his best level? I'm not sure, but it's all hands on deck for Winnipeg right now, because Dallas is a load. They are a stacked team that feels like they're just kind of getting better, almost like Edmonton, just sort of playing better as they go. And Winnipeg will need Scheifele back up and running like he was. They'll need Morrissey. I don't know how much better. If you got to leave a game with your shoulder dragging, what was it, 4 days ago?
Yeah.
I just don't know how much better it can get in that short of a time.
And what about the Moose? You got to deal with that guy. I mean, this guy does score goals.
Good luck. Stop and rant at him.
He's been on 12
chance.
goals in a row. That might be, of all the sort of records he set, from the natural hat trick to the hat trick in the closeout game to the 4 points in the period, whatever it is. He's been in on 12 straight goals for the Dallas Stars in the playoffs, in a Game 6, in a Game 7, and a Game 1. Like, it's just wild. And he's a winger. Like, at least centermen are around its face-offs. They're in the middle of the ice. They're around the puck more. He's a winger, and he's doing that. How the narrative has changed for him and this season in 3 games, from a guy you're sort of scratching your head, well, was that a good decision by Dallas? Where is he? Is he pouting? Is he going to be okay? To now, he's the Conn Smythe front runner because of 3 otherworldly games. Again, showing why. I just checked it. I think he's 7th all-time in points per game in the playoffs. All time. ahead of Mark Messier, who's in 8th. Like that, I know he played with Nate MacKinnon, and I know that helps. But he also helped Nate MacKinnon be really good. Like they work together well, and he's been showing exactly why he was so sought after throughout the year. And now that he maybe is finally right emotionally and sort of fully moved on from Colorado, you can see what he could do. Now, I'm not expecting another hat trick, but it's just been amazing what he's done.
Johnny, do you think that Nate MacKinnon is taking Sidney Crosby for lunch and for dinner and saying, what do you think of Colorado?
Well, listen, and the GM over this Team Canada is Kyle Dubas. So, you know, if you want to get Kyle Dubas is here as well, like, hey,
you think it would have been fishy if he named Nate captain?
I'm thinking like Ryan O'Reilly was over here. Ryan O'Reilly's one of the all-time great World Championship players. He for sure would have been the captain. I'm like, sorry, Ryan. Sid's the captain, and now Nate's an assistant. He's an assistant. Yeah, it would have been a little fishy if he did that. But I tell you what, guys, they practiced here this morning, Team Canada, and Sid walks off the ice, and over here you do like your media on this sort of red carpet thing as you walk through the mix zone, and there must have been 100 media members just swarmed him, 10, 12, 15 people deep in this semicircle. He's just there chatting away. It like nothing I've ever seen at any of these tournaments. I've been coming to these things for 15 years. It's amazing the star power he has. But yeah, I would bet that Nate MacKinnon is in Sid's ear all the time about coming to Colorado if he's thinking about it. You know, in a respectful manner, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I imagine that would be something that he would be very interested in getting Sid to do.
The thing is, I wouldn't be shocked if Sid looked at it and said, well, you know, you guys won your cup a few years ago, for sure. But since then, you know,
you haven't won a round.
What have you guys done? And if I get Nate to Pitt, maybe I get into the playoffs. So, you know, why isn't Sid trying to sell Nate MacKinnon on demanding a trade to Pittsburgh?
That's crazy talk.
Why not?
Dude.
Why not? What has Colorado done the last couple of years? Nothing.
Well, the other guy in Colorado. The other guy in Colorado is pretty good, though. That Makar, you know what I mean?
Pretty good.
But you know what else is good in around Colorado? All the other teams in the West. Like there is something to be said about the East. I think like if you were on a very good team in the East, you have a much better chance of doing something in the playoffs than if you're on a very good team in the West right now. That's just the way the league is sort of set up. And you know, if you were, it would never happen, but, you know, that idea that if you went to the easier conference per se, then maybe you might have a better chance to go deeper in the playoffs.
Johnny, if you were the ownership group, like if you were the owner of the Colorado Avalanche and you had an exit meeting with Sakic and McFarland, would you want an explanation for that, or they already went through all that? Like they would have had to gone to ownership with the Rantanen business, but like, didn't work out, and it just adds insult to injury when he tortures them in Game 7. Like, what would your handle on that be?
Yeah, I would assume you're right that they would have been well briefed on the contract offer. If they're going to offer Rantanen like $100 million, that probably would go through ownership at some level. But I guess what I would ask you say, so when we decided to trade him, how much more money would it have taken? Like, how far apart were we from the number that we were comfortable paying him and the number that we could have got him to take? Were we comfortable at 9.5 and he would have taken 9.9? Like, how close were we? And was it worth it to trade a player of that caliber over $250,000, $500,000 per year, whatever it might be? That's the kind of question I'd be like, because it seems, you know, do we lose sight of the forest for the trees? Because, you know, I understand the cap ramifications of getting Makar done and loading up on 3 big contracts. But the cap's going up. And if it was $300,000, like, please, $300,000, $500,000, just take that off one of your third pair defensemen. That's where you save $500,000. You don't save it on Mikko Rantanen. That's the sort of conversation I would have with them. Like how close were we, and why did it fall apart if we were that close?
Mm-hmm. Well, that ship has sailed, and Mikko Rantanen's still rolling in the second round and in Winnipeg ahead of Game 2 tonight. All right, Johnny, enjoy yourself over there. Enjoy your weekend. Good luck with that voice of yours, and say hi to Gordon, everyone, for us.
And if you hear it scratchy, it's because it's working hard, not because it's going out.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Of course it is. Thank you, Johnny.
All right, boys. Have a good weekend.
Mike Johnston joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Drive the built-in Canada fuel-efficient, fun-to-drive Toyota RAV4. Gas or hybrid models available. Visit mapletoyota.com. Well, we'll see what comes of it tonight, man. You got Game 3 tonight, Game 4 on Sunday.
This series could be over by next week, man, or by next Friday.
Yeah. Things happen quickly, man. Things happen quickly. So we'll see what comes of it tonight. All right, panel work for you. Panel work. You got some going tonight too, Noodles, with the Jets in action.
I do with the Jets. Yep.
And
I will be staying.
We got CJ
grinding.
coming up. CJ's down in Florida. We'll set the scene with him. We got Bill Lindsay back on the show a little bit later this afternoon. Dear Hazy be in about an hour, and our best bets still to come as well. We're going to see you on Monday. We're going to see you on Monday, and we'll see what comes of it.
We'll talk then.
There he is, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Milton Friday brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. This playoff season, Boston Pizza is planning the parade and has a new all-star playoffs menu for you to enjoy. For pizza, pints, and puck drops, visit your local Boston Pizza today. What a Boston Pizza night it is, man. We got Game 3, Leafs-Panthers. You got the Jets in action, the Jays on the West Coast, a late start. Easing into the weekend. I love it.
Yeah.
And Boston Pizza obviously is very, very, very comfortable in planning the parade and confident that we're feeling good. And here we are in the second round. We've got two Canadian teams that are up 2-0 in their series, with the Oilers winning in overtime last night. And the Jets, we'll see. Maybe they tie it up tonight and it's all good. Maybe we go 3 for 3. And then we're guaranteed a Canadian team in the Cup final. Let's head down to Florida, Game 3 tonight, right here on TSN Radio. Here's our TSN Hockey insider, Chris Johnston. CJ, how do you feel about the likelihood we're going to see a Canadian team in the Cup final, considering what we know so far in the second round?
I feel pretty good about at least one of them finding their way through. Don't know which one it'll be, but having 3 of the final 8 is sort of uncharted territory. And then obviously with the Oilers and Leafs each, grabbing that 2-0 series lead. I mean, the odds are pretty well in their favor. And, this could be a special year. Maybe we get one on each side of the bracket if the Leafs can find their way through the Panthers. I mean, that would be crazy if we got an all-Canadian final.
CJ, what do you make of tonight's game as far as being the most important thing for the Leafs? Is it the start? Is it the goaltender? Is it special teams? Is it a combination of everything? What do you think would be number one on the docket for Craig Berube's team?
Well, I'm fascinated to see what we get from Joseph Woll in this game. Just being down on the road, building. He has played in the past, of course, in the playoffs, but I think that the Leafs have had, even with Stolarz going out, and kind of a weird game one when you're just looking at the goaltending position specifically, but the Leafs have gotten better goaltending in the series through 2 games. I mean, Sergei Bobrovsky has been a story on the Panthers side, but not for the reasons we're accustomed to the last few playoff seasons. And I think if Toronto can get another solid outing out of Woll, I mean, they're going to have a shot here to go ahead 3-0 in the series, which is not something I think too many of us would have predicted heading into it. So, he's probably the individual player I'm most curious about from the Toronto end of this thing, just because, it's been a few weeks since he started until the last game. Is he going to be a little bit more comfortable in the net? It's more settled in what he's doing, and can he help the Leafs come on the road and find a way to get what would be a massive victory?
With Chris Johnston, in terms of Joseph Woll and the way he approaches the game, his demeanor, like he seems like a very laid back guy, and every goalie's a little bit different, but it does seem like there's 2 ends of the spectrum. Maybe Noodles, you can speak to this more than I can, but
sure.
There's either the lunatic who's like, if you touch my stick, I will kill you. You know what I mean? Like, don't talk to me. If you look at me the wrong way, it's going to be a problem. Or there's the other guy who's just, turns left when he's supposed to turn right, and he might miss the game, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, you're in net tonight. Yeah. We need you. I'm presuming he's the latter. Is that fair, unfair, or is there like a burning intensity there with Joseph Woll that maybe we just don't see all the time?
Well, I'm sure there's a quiet intensity to him, but there's certainly, I have seen zero evidence of lunatic in him. Whether that's off the ice, the way he conducts himself, or certainly on the ice in games. I can't recall him ever getting too fired up about anything. So, he's definitely doesn't fall into that category. Very laid back, kind of zen guy. Like he's the sort of guy that goes on vacations in the mountains and hikes and meditates. So, he definitely doesn't, it's not coming through his ears, right? There's no Ron Hextall in him, to take an extreme example from the past. And, I think that the biggest challenge for him in the game, in addition to just, the spotlight, the pressure, all those things, which I'm sure he's accustomed to given, he's grown up and been a pretty high level goaltender, but, it's handling the puck. I think they're trying to ask him to do more of that. Obviously with the Panthers forecheck, there's a real emphasis from Toronto's end of things, not just on the goalie, but on everybody to, limit the amount of time they're in their own zone to get breakouts. And I noticed this morning at the morning skate that there was a lot of conversation with Woll, with the assistant coaches, even, just in terms of what they want the handoffs to look like to the D-men. And so, I think Stolarz is probably a little better or more comfortable, better suited at that than he is. But obviously, in addition to playing the position and trying to keep it out of the net, they're trying to help, have him help the zone exits so that the Panthers can't do what they do best.
So surprising names, guys like Max Pacioretty, being a difference maker. Is anybody else you circle maybe a little farther down on the roster that you would expect to be a difference maker, or maybe has a little bit more and can make an impact in tonight's game and Sunday's game?
Ooh, down the lineup. I mean, Bobby McMahon's probably the obvious answer. I thought he had actually a good game too in this series. I liked what he was doing there. He had one particularly good look, was almost a partial type of breakaway early in the game, and was getting into the blue paint around Bobrovsky, and it seemed like he just was getting a little bit more to the inside of the ice, where obviously the coaching staff has been asking him to do, and I actually lost track now of what the number is, but it's been 20 odd games since he scored a goal. This is a guy who had 20 total in the regular season. When he's at his best, we've seen he can be a finisher, and I think from the Toronto end of things, if he could get going a little bit, it doesn't obviously have to be a primary producer for the Leafs, but he's someone I think is capable. He's not getting the same type of matchups as the Matthews Marner line is seeing. That if he could pop a big one in there, might be a difference maker. But one of the great stories so far in this playoffs for the Leafs is they're getting all kinds of goals from the blue line, which obviously isn't something that was happening in the regular season. You're getting the Pacioretty contribution. Obviously, Nylander's really popped here the last few games. So it's getting spread around in a way that they've been able to score a lot more than we've seen in playoff years prior, and that's for me probably the biggest reason why they grabbed the big series lead against Ottawa and they've raced out in this one and had more success as they've been putting the puck in the net more. And I think that puts a little less stress in other areas of the game and allows them to have a night like the other night where, three go in against them, but they still find a way to win it.
With Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider, Game 3 tonight, Leafs-Panthers right here on TSN Radio, puck drop at 7 o'clock. And, the Craig Berube effect is one that everyone can sense, everyone can pick up on. You look at the way that they're playing, the way that they're, the amount of shots they're blocking, the physicality. They've been very, very good in terms of off the draw and certain details in terms of that. They've kept their composure. I mean, these are all things that, you wait for a coach to bring to the table. And maybe when you don't have them, you don't notice it necessarily, but when they're very evident to you, you can realize the effect that the coach is having. And credit to the players for going out there and doing it. But how much do you think, the DNA of the team forever was just core four. How balanced is it now in terms of the positive effect and the winning ways? Would you contribute to the presence and coaching style of Craig Berube?
Oh, I think a lot. I think they've made some changes that Sheldon Keefe didn't have at his disposal on the blue line, which I think have helped. But, he's brought everyone together. I think he's got them rallied around a common goal. I think he's the kind of coach that does a good job of making everyone feel important. And, the biggest thing I think of is he has been very comfortable to maybe not, like he doesn't have to exert his authority all the time. I think back to earlier in the year, remember early in the season, Nylander had a comment in the media about, how little he was playing and wasn't happy about that. I mean, keep in mind, Craig Berube is a new coach in that situation. I mean, there's a world where he might step in and want to, be heavy-handed about how he handled that. And instead, I think that he and Nylander hashed it out. He gave him more minutes. As he joked after the last game, right? He said, I just leave him alone now. I mean, I think that he's got a really good handle on on how to kind of deal with the personalities. Obviously, you got a lot of players with a lot of pressure on themselves, a lot of guys with a big paycheck. I think he's really done a nice job of just kind of handling those players in particularly well, but obviously the whole team. And he carries a little. He can walk in with some swagger too, as someone who's won a cup before and has been there and done that. So, right now it's hard to find much fault with the Leafs. I mean, they're 6-2 in the playoffs. They won something like 18 and 20 odd games down the stretch. I mean, they've really hit a new level in since March and through this point now and into early May. And I just think that his presence is all the praise he's getting, I think, has been earned. And, the challenge now is to keep doing it. He's got to keep pushing the buttons. He's got to, not let them, squander a lead like the one they have in this series. And obviously from the players' end of things, he's got to keep them sacrificing their bodies, which is not an easy thing to do with all the shots they block, how physical they're playing these games, and how emotional. I think that they've come with more urgency in the series than the Panthers. I think that's one of the reasons they've grabbed this 2-0 lead, through those first two home games.
How important do you think Chris Tanev's role is in all of this? Not a sexy player, but certainly very effective in a lot of facets. Quietly. I mean, he did score a goal, but he even joked that it bounced 6 times before it hit the back of the net. But, how effective do you think, or how important is he to kind of that stability on the back end?
It's massive, right? I mean, I just think it gives them a second sort of top. I mean, he's their top defenseman, really, all-around defenseman. And even though it's the defensive side of the game that he's made his living on, I mean, that's what this team does better. I mean, right now, they have the fewest goals against per 60 in the playoffs of any team. The Leafs have been the stingiest team in terms of what they're giving up so far in the playoffs. And I think that all runs through, the way they play. And Chris Tanev personifies that. I mean, they have 50 blocked shots through 2 games of the series. I mean, what do we all know him for is his willingness to throw his body instead of pucks, going back to his days in Vancouver. And, last year with Dallas, it was a big part of the Stars reaching the third round. Had some tough matchups assignments in those early series against Colorado and Vegas, and, helped them shut down the McKinnons and Jack Eichel and the dangerous players in those series. And, he's played a role in doing so early in this playoffs for Toronto. So, look, he signed a long contract, and there might come a time when we're talking about him, the conversation shifts that he can't keep doing it at this level. But right now, I mean, he's been incredible, I think, and is kind of an identity guy in addition to what he's actually contributing on the ice that's helped change the way these Leafs play.
How many Leaf fans are you seeing down there?
I have not seen too many just yet. There was a few on the flight, but I will say just driving through the parking lot here tonight, it's pretty red right now. So I don't know how split the building's going to be. It doesn't look too promising at the moment.
Okay, that's all right. I mean, we got to carry over that storyline. It was a big one against Ottawa. A lot easier to get to Ottawa than it is to South Florida, clearly. But
what did you guys make of? I meant to bring this up. Like, I was asked this morning on First Up, like, Ottawa fans had some chance. I mean, they were going after Matthews.
They had some good chance.
Yeah, we never really talked about it. CJ, I'm sure you were. You were in Ottawa. Were you there? I mean, those chants were ringing out. I can't see that happening in Florida. I know Leafs Nation travels pretty well. Florida's starting to become a much more educated fan base, but I can't see them going after Matthews and Marner the way that the Sens fans did.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they did. I mean, I was down here in the Cup final last year. I don't recall anything like that against McDavid, even the 2023 playoffs.
Right.
So it's become a great fan base down here. It really has. I mean, this used to be one of my least favorite places to come to the game, and it's a loud building now. And obviously, with all the success the Panthers have had, I think they've energized the community. But I don't think there'll be any chants around anyone's hairline or anything like that coming from the crowd here tonight.
Yeah, I don't think I think Matthews is safe on that one. And, Marner's UFA status is not top of mind for people in Florida right now. I don't think they're really necessarily are, cap crunching before they get to the rink tonight.
Yeah.
But it should be good. It should be an electric evening. Game 3, it's a big one, man. They call it a swing game for a reason. Let's see what comes of it. Enjoy it, CJ. Enjoy your weekend. We'll do it again soon.
Will do. I'll just say this. I was talking with someone in the league today who's not connected to the series. He said the Leafs are the best team in the East. So There's some belief in other places that aren't Leafs Nation, too, about this playoff run.
All right. Well, you'll take anything you can get if you're a Leaf fan right now. That is for sure. Thank you, CJ.
All right, guys.
There's Chris Johnston.
CJ.
Big win for Washington last night.
Yeah, they looked pretty energized.
Yeah.
Washington had a response last night, and Tom Wilson right in the middle of everything.
Yeah, he is. He's a unicorn in the league, man. He is a monster that can skate and he can score and he contributes in so many different ways, and you can't miss him. Like you're never going to go to a game with him on the ice and miss that guy. He's always going to be in the middle of everything. But listen, the Leafs, they won the division. They've been a really good team in the past. I can't say enough of the fact that they've added Tanev, Carlo, and Ekman-Larsson. Like that alone just changes everything. Where in years past it was just, Justin Hall and Timothy Liljegren's out there, and you've got, it's a different beast. Like Carlo is as meat and potatoes as you can find in the league. Like it's just hack and whack and move and that's fine. Because, if you need a puck mover, it is going to be Morgan Riley on that pairing. Are you going to get hemmed at times or whatever? Sure, but I've been impressed with how composed he's been, how big he stands. He's not nasty or mean necessarily, but he's not afraid. Like he doesn't he doesn't shrink. So he's in the middle of everything, and he's a tree, man. He's a monster.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the playoffs. Like we have talked about it so many times. Like give me a 6'4" guy who's not great with the puck on my second or third pair over a 5'10" guy who's good with the puck. Obviously they're extremes. You give me Cale Makar, I'm taking Cale Makar, obviously. Right. But you give me a guy, he's 5'10" and he makes a pretty good first pass. I don't care. He can't move guys. He gets out of the way. He doesn't like to be hit. These guys, they throw hits, they take hits. They're not affected by it. It's just more difficult to wear down a guy who's 6'3", 6'4", 220. It's tougher to do. And the Leafs, have clearly been proving that halfway through this series. All right, Game 3 tonight. We'll continue to look ahead to it. Bill Lindsay from Florida in about 20 minutes. Dear Hazy B coming up as well. Our best bets on the Leaf game tonight. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Connor tweeting in saying that Leafs goaltending legend Harry Sateri is on Finland's roster apparently at the Worlds.
Wow.
So, remember old Harry Sateri?
Yes.
Wasn't he the guy that got claimed on waivers when the Leafs had claimed them or tried to bring him over?
Yeah, he was in Arizona or something. They brought him over, and
Harry Sateri.
He was like 32 back then. Like I don't
still
know.
Kicking, man. That's the beauty of the Worlds. Like the Worlds, you see guys will go there for certain. Now Finland's a great hockey country,
right?
But you'll get certain countries where you'll get a 40-year-old who's playing. He's been to the Worlds 10 times.
Exactly.
The guy just continues to go.
A legend in his own country or whatever, and we've never heard of his name.
It's like, who is this guy? Well, he's going back to the Worlds, man. Yeah. He's going to put on a clinic out there. But you get the Jays in Seattle this weekend, which is always a fun series because so many Blue Jay fans make their way down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Which is great. And I don't know what the weather's looking like necessarily, but it's a cool park, and Seattle's a pretty good team. And the Jays got one last night. We were disturbed yesterday talking about them, and yet the bats came alive and they got on the board last night. Dalton Varsho's been pretty good since he returned. Like to his credit, he's been pretty good. And at least you didn't get swept by the LA Angels.
Well,
That's
and now they're
important.
3 games under 500?
Yeah, just a few games under 500.
Yeah.
Come on now. This is the weekend in Seattle. This
is the problem. I was telling you. I was trying to be positive with them. They found a win yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's not like, the AL East is dominant.
No,
I mean,
it's not.
Yankees look like they'll
be
real.
fine.
Everybody else is kind of just hanging around there.
Yeah, you got Gausman Castillo tonight. And Luis Castillo's a good pitcher that's caused concerns for the Jays in the past.
Yes.
It does seem like the Jays are running into, great arms, but that's what happens when your bats just, have a difficult time coming alive. A fifth starter can look like a Cy Young winner when you just have no life in your bats. But came alive a bit last night. Again, Jays in Seattle, so we'll get to that into the next hour. Dear Hazy B coming up at 6:30. Back down to Florida to catch up with Bill Lindsay on the Panthers side of things. Any panic in that room? If there is panic, how would we know it tonight based on the way they may play this evening? We're about an hour away from puck drop, Game 3 right here on TSN Radio. Full tee up into the final hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.